Jan with Jan Patek Quilts, and I do needle turn applique, mostly. Every once in a while, I put pieced elements in my quilts because I like the tension between the sharpness of the piecing and the softness of the applique. So I've had people ask me to do a tutorial on freezer paper templates and piecing. So that's what we're going to focus on today, no applique included. So here's our star we're going to piece and put together. The first thing we have to do is get our pattern out and trace it from our pattern. And I will show you what I do with my patterns so I can keep track of things. I put background, star, background, star, background, star, so that after I cut these out, I know where they go because it can get kind of confusing. And I will usually, particularly if I'm using a stripe or if I'm using something where I want everything to be going up, is I put an arrow showing this way is up, not this. So that when I place it on my fabric, I know which way I want my lines to be going if it's a stripe. Now, it doesn't make any difference with this one because it's a print and it doesn't matter. So, but if you're doing a stripe or a plaid and you want things to match, that's what you do, is you mark on the pattern piece which way is up. Okay, so after we've done that, we need to cut out our pattern pieces. Well, first we've got to draw the star out, and I highly recommend when you do it on freezer paper that you do it with a ruler, because it's almost, like I said before in one of my tutorials, straight lines are much harder than curves. And making sure this, you want all your pieces on your pattern to be exactly straight, or you will have a crooked star, and that's okay if you want a crooked star, but most people don't. So use your ruler, trace your pattern off, all your pieces, mark them, which one's background, which one's star, cut them out, and then we're going to iron them to the fabric. And when you iron them to the fabric, let me set that out of the way. When you iron them to your fabric, make sure you've got enough room to have a 1/4 inch all the way around. Okay, so you've drawn these off, cut them out. This is all star pieces, no backgrounds. And then you will take your pattern and fabric and cut. If I can, I'm going to stand for this. I cannot cut sitting down. It doesn't work for me. Okay. And I've got to remember to remove the guard. Sometimes I try to cut with the guard up. It doesn't work very well. Okay. Make sure you lay your 1/4 inch line along the edge of your pattern and then cut. And it's not cutting. There it goes. Okay. And that's what's nice about this turntable one. You then, see why I don't piece, ladies? There we go. That's working. I think I should have had them give me a new blade. Okay, so you've got that cut, square off, 1/4 inch on the ends. Okay, and then we'll square this one off too. Okay, so then you repeat that with all the pieces for your star. Now go ahead and go through and cut the rest of your pieces so you have all your star pieces and all your background pieces cut out. Since there's so many stars in this quilt, you can layer 4 pieces, up to 4. I wouldn't do any more than 4 pieces of different colored stars, and I think the background's all the same color, but 4 background fabrics pieces, and cut them at once. And if you're going to do that, which I do because it makes it a lot faster when you have lots of stars, make sure before you cut that you put a pin in the center of each one so that the fabric doesn't slip. That's the only problem with that. So now you have all the pattern pieces for your star cut out. Now we need to sew them together. Okay, so now what you do when we're at the sewing machine is you lay your pieces out the way they're going to go, and it quite often helps to have the pattern with you so you know which way everything goes. I have over there at my sewing table where I usually do it, I have a bulletin board that is right to the left of it, and I usually pin the pattern there so I can refer to the pattern all the time before I sew, because it's a lot easier to look at it beforehand than take it out afterwards. Okay, now before we can sew, we have to make sure our machine and I are on the same page, and that is that where it says it's a 1/4 inch from the edge, it is a 1/4 inch from the edge. So take your machine and put your needle down, and then get a ruler and make sure that it's up, the 1/4 inch is up against the needle, and then put a piece of tape right here to mark a 1/4 inch out from where it's out from the presser foot, because then when your fabric goes in, it should go along that piece of tape. A lot of machines say they're marked at a 1/4 inch. I'm trying to remember. This says it is. It really is pretty close, but a lot of them aren't. So anyway, now you know that when you sew a 1/4 inch, it really is going to be a 1/4 inch. Okay, now back to your pattern pieces. Take your patterns, your star pieces, and lay them together, right sides together. Now, where these 2 pieces intersect, it should be a 1/4 inch in, and it is. We can measure it. Yeah, it is right at, and it will be a 1/4 inch up here. So you start here and sew straight down, and if you keep you can pin them if you want to. I don't usually need to, but you can. I don't like to do it with paper. We're not going to. Okay. Lay your both edges up against your piece of tape, and just keep the edge right against the piece of tape. I hope this worked. Yes, it did. See? Straight there, pieces together. Now, I would go ahead and at least take that one off, and probably this one. And if they catch a little in your seam, it's okay. It'll just strip loose. Now you do the same thing on the other side. On this side, sometimes I stop a 1/4 inch before the edge. Yeah, it helps if you keep your machine threaded too. Really works better. And I usually trim these little tags off as I go. And And there. And press. Okay. So that's not exactly perfect. It maybe should be down a little, but I don't get worried about things like that. I never have. Okay, then you take this off, sew it on here. And really, it would have been a good idea to go press towards the dark. So, and you can see I didn't do that one quite right. But Kelly did when she did hers. That's why Kelly does most of the piecing around here. But it's good enough that it's going, yeah, it still matches. So if you're going to sew this on, okay, and now it tells you on the pattern what sequence to sew these in. You can sell them if you want to. Now that we've got D sewed onto these, you sew the left leg together, and then you sew these 3 pieces, and then sew the left leg together and sew it to the bottom of this, to the left side of piece D. I'm going to turn that around. So you sew E and F together and sew it to the bottom of D, and then you sew G, H, and I together and sew that to the bottom of D and this, because it'll be sewed together here. These 2 will go together, sew it to here. These 3 will go together and sew to the bottom of that. And then you will have a star. As you can tell, I prefer applique, but I really do like pieced stars. I think they're really neat. And pieced trees, and sometimes pieced houses. The houses in Little House are pieced with just the windows and doors appliqued, because I like the way that looked against the softness of the stems and leaves and berries. So to recap, what we've covered today is freezer paper templates and freezer paper piecing. We hope you've learned a little bit about using this technique today. The same technique can be applied to trees, houses, anything that you piece. We hope you've enjoyed this tutorial for Jan Patek from Jan Patek Quilts, and if you have, please subscribe to our channel. Thanks, and have a good day.